pursuit of heroes, legends old. In his stories their glories unfold. Baz the Bard with strings of gold. His heart cries out the tales he's told.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Meta Report. My name's Baz the Bard and I've been joined today by Christian Bergesen all the way from Norway. How are you doing, Christian?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. It's going to be a good opportunity to finally actually speak to you and see you and speak to you, other than just typing to you.
Yeah, indeed. So most people who watch the show, I get a lot of people give me results. Since covering Sweden, Christian has given me results for Norway. So it's been fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for providing them. And you're the reason that essentially we've got sort of like the Scandinavian meta so far. So we're going to be covering Norway, Finland and Denmark results. And as we're heading into Sweden, which is this weekend. So should we get cracking? Should we get on to, I think we're starting with Denmark. He says, there we go. Right, okay.
Good.
So 49 players. I think it was, 64 for this one?
Yeah, they had a cap on 64 players, and they had 50 players registered, but one person could sadly not make it to it.
Yeah.
So
We kind of had the same problem in the UK.
49 is still very good.
Yeah, I think we had 160 players. I think we ended up with 140. And then that slowly sort of like people just drop out, don't they? So so this is week 2, 8 Zen, 7 KO. Not normally the top 5 hero spread that's sort of like, we would expect after seeing the US Nationals. 5 Riptide is and 4 Azalea. Is Ranger a big thing in Denmark?
I according to what I've heard from the Danish players, is it would be that Rangers would be the biggest. They were actually more geared towards like falling back on Guardians, and then if that kind of falls through, they're trying to be more on the aggro decks, which you can see with Sen and KO being here. But
yeah,
I also
absolutely.
thought it was kind of funny, and there was a lot of more of the people. I was actually kind of surprised that they were ended up being more Riptides than Azalea. But if you think a little bit about it, it might be a part of that people liking playing Guardians that might affect it, since you can play a little bit more grindy with the Riptide than necessarily with Azalea, but both, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you were going to see more of a fatigue strategy from the Riptides, sort of like historically, but like what we saw at UK Nationals was Team Scotland turned up with 4 Riptides, and they were very much on an aggro plan with very few traps, but they were really confident going into the Zen matchup, and Andrew Rayner took it into the top 4. So Riptide is sort of like popped up out of the blue and showing that he's a good ranger into this meta for sure. We're going to do a draft. So these was the heroes that were drafted. 17 Enigma, 16 New and 15 Zen. Everybody was saying you can't force anyone in this. You've got to play your seat, and that's certainly what we're seeing. It's pretty even over the percentages. Was that most people's feelings going into it?
I think there was a little bit mixed. I think there definitely was a lot of. I've heard a lot of people talking about how you could. Some people would talk like, oh, you can just force Zen, kind of like back in Uprising where people were forcing Phi.
Yeah.
I heard people comparing Zen to Phi. Just force Zen.
Mm-hmm.
But as you see here, being the least drafted hero compared to the others, I don't really necessarily think that holds up. And I don't remember the numbers in my head, but it was also quite an even spread about what kind of heroes were winning the different pods.
Yeah, I've got that one.
So it was definitely a very even spread between it. So I think people were very rewarded for drafting their seed.
Absolutely. So Enigma won 3 pods, New won 2 pods, and Zen won 1 pod. UK Nationals, from the players that were drafted, 127 drafted on draft 1. It was 35% with Enigma, 34% with Zen, and 31% with New. So we're saying the same percentages, that that we have in Denmark. For draft 2, which was 100 players, 38 players drafted new, 34 with Zen and 28 with Enigma. But it can depend on what your packs are like. You know, you've gone from sort of like new being the least represented to the most represented at UK Nationals. Obviously, sort of like the packs were indicating, you know, very much Enigma coming out of these packs, whether or not you saw, you know, Manifestations of Mirage Eye, Restless Coalescence, and sort of like, you know, some other juicy ones. You know, we're not going to know for sure.
Yeah, it will also depend. Like, you have the 7th card in the pack, so if like most of the 8 packs is filled with the 7th card being a ninja, assassin, or illusionist card, that will also heavily affect if there might be more illusionist player in a pod, or more ninjas and more assassins in a pod.
Yeah,
absolutely. As are just more cards for that class.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get on to the top 8. So can you see that all right?
Yeah, I can see that perfectly.
Awesome. People obviously on a mobile, you might not be able to see this as well. Okay, so Laura Nelson on Zen, she's done 2 tier 3 top 8 finishes. So every one of these players has got a top tier 3 finish at least. I mean, sort of like Denmark players are just, they're really, really good. Peter Nathan Henriksen. Go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Denmark, in traditionally, especially in like Magic, also have quite a lot of very strong players. I think they might, of the Scandinavian countries, or at least from Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, they have the most like pro players within Magic. So they do have very good card game players.
Yeah, I was thing is, it's, you know, I'm probably like the rest of sort of like the world, not knowing about sort of like Danish players. When I was going through these players and seeing where they've come in sort of like, you know, tier 3 placings, I was just like, wow, okay, these players are really strong. You know, normally when you're in the UK, you're looking around the Nationals room, you're just like, blimey, there are some faces here. But, oh man, 64 players or 49 players sort of like for the Danish Nationals. You're just looking around just going, anyone could take this. Yeah, that's so strong. So we've got Peter Nathan Henriksen. He's got 1 tier 3 top 8. Andrus Wenzel on new. 3 tier 3 top 8 finishes and a win. So a really good player there. How do we say this? Jeppe Madsen?
Jeppe Madsen.
Cool. 1 tier 3 top 8. Sebastian Grondau. He has got 5 tier 3 top 8s. We saw him at the Calling in Birmingham. That's the first time I saw him, which he came. He didn't make it through the top 8, but he was leading Swiss all the way through. I'm pretty sure he was the king of Swiss for that. And when I've been lucky enough to help Alan stream the callings in Euros in European countries, I always try and grab Sebastian. He's always eager to come on. You can never miss him. He's always got his beanie. So you're looking out for a guy with a beanie and you'll find him.
Yeah, he didn't have his... I don't actually remember if he had his signature beanie on in Denmark. I don't actually remember.
That's because most people...
But I'm not sure.
Most people know him. So it's just like, I don't need to take my signature beanie when I'm in Denmark. Victor Brocker, 2 tier 3 top 8s. The only one I haven't got is Frederick Emil Hansen. Yeah, I haven't got any information on him, unfortunately. But Jonas Benzati, 2 tier 3 top 8s and a win. So he was the original Danish national champion back in 2021. So, and I first met him at Battle Hardened Leeds, which would have been the following year. So always fantastic to talk to. So that was the top 8. Some of that, I mean, we never saw New really make it into the top 8.
No.
I mean, some of these matches must have been a bit crazy. What were they like?
So especially the game versus Jeppe and Andreas was a really close game. I only saw the later half of it because I was mostly following Frederick versus Jonas' first game.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a very close game, which basically came down to Azalea having 3 cards. I think it was 3 cards left. Yeah, 3 cards left in library, and They're in very low life totals, and Andreas plays a bonds of attraction blue, and Jeppe decides to not block it because it's like he can trade the life, or he does not want to remove cards from his hand. But what you see when he hits is that a infecting shot gets banished, the last infecting shot in his deck, because he forgot that there was an infecting shot on the top of his library because of deep in pitch stack. So he didn't have the final enough damage to actually kill Andreas. So it was, yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason why Nu's annoying. That's for sure. So the semi-final between Andreas and Sebastian. That's the final. So, I mean, that must have been one hell of a match because we haven't really seen with the pre-cons. You see, sort of like Nu has got the time, to start banishing the cards, to start playing those cards from the banish zone. But sort of like Nu Zen is so fast. How did Andreas sort of like manage to claw this for the win?
So the sad part here is that I didn't actually get to see the finals, so I'm not sure how that game actually lasted out.
Okay.
But when I was talking with Sebastian and Andreas after it, it was a very grindy matchup where Sebastian had some good draws. He didn't have as good draws as he had against Frederick, or as Frederick had against Jonas, because those were some really high roller games. It was a little bit more of a fear of Zen game, but Andreas played really well into it and managed to stall out and managed to survive the onslaught of the attacks. Not 100% sure. I would guess that some of it is the hits from his banishes might be in his favor to actually delay him enough. But yeah, I'm very sad I was able to actually watch that game.
I mean, we saw sort of like a Nu managed to banish like a spark of genius from a dash player, and it's just like, oh my god, what a hit! You just like, there's no Teklo call coming out for you, but sort of like some players can navigate it better than others. It just depends on what sort of like you said, what Nu can banish and take away those key cards. But well done, Andreas. Fantastic win for you, and sort of like a fantastic win for Nu. Because I don't think she's been like necessarily getting the results that potentially people were looking at when they first revealed sort of like the heroes from Mistveil. That's for sure. Okay. So
I think.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think she. I think Nu also won like a battle hardened the same weekend or something like that. I heard like some. Or that she won something. I also wanted to mention something that is a little bit cool, that Laura actually went undefeated until she lost to Andreas in the semifinals.
Okay.
So that was a really good showing.
Yeah, it's the power of Nu as well, and the power of a player knowing how to navigate that deck. Fantastic. Well done. Right, okay, so Finland. 32 players, so this was capped at 32, and they had 32 turn up, so nice when you can always fill it. Kano, wasn't expecting him to be in the top 5. Levia, we've not really seen in the top 5, sort of like on the sort of like the metas that I've looked at. Levia seems to be quite a popular hero, sort of like for Scandinavian countries. Iceland seem to have quite a lot of Levia players turn up as well. And again, Riptides and Azaleas making it into the top 5 represented heroes. So, I mean, words got out about them. You weren't judging this one, were you?
No. No. Most of the information I have is from the Finnish players that I know.
Okay.
So it's actually a little bit funny because I did expect there to be quite a bit of Levias there, because our nickname for Finland and from the other Scandinavian people, we know Finland as Brute Nation. They have a lot of Brute players, really good Brute players.
Right. Okay.
There, so it's kind of expected. So we kind of expect there to be always some amount of Brutes coming up there.
That's fair enough. I expected, like, when I first encountered Sweden, it was all Guardians. It was like, wow, okay, this is Guardian country. But yeah, Finland is Brute country. Only 2 KOs though. So Levia favoured over KO, which is quite surprising because KO's record, sort of like in the heavy hitter season, was phenomenal, and Levia literally has only picked up 1 card. in shadow horror. But yeah, you know, if it works for you, it works for you, doesn't it? Okay, let's
to be fair, Levi did pick also up the Sash, and as I've heard a lot of Levi players say that Levi got more out of Sash than actually KO did, and I do actually believe that because it also helps with it makes your Dread Screamers cost 1. It makes your also the new horror also cost 1, so you have more ways to chain those together. So I think that helped a lot.
Oh, fair enough. Cool. Top 8 time. Okie dokie. So I don't have much information on this top 8. So, but you've managed to get some information, sort of like from your Finland contacts. So you were Sani Lampi. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Normally we see him sort of like pop up on Arsenal Pass to do draft experience. He's got 6 tier 3 top 8 finishes, including 1 win. Oh my god! Yeah, he's a bit of a good player, this guy. On new,
yeah.
Have you got any more information on Ewer?
So he's quite he started. I don't remember when he started Flesh and Blood, but he have had a tendency to he finds some decks and he sticks to them. That's how he got his top 8 with Dromite on one of the PTs.
Yep.
Other than that, he's trying he got a kid last year, I think it was quite late last year, and he's doing his best to try and juggle those two, and he's doing a very good work with that. A lot trying to find like-minded of what they call the fab dads.
Yeah.
Trying to figure the time with the kids and all of that.
Yeah,
so
it's a tough one.
A really great guy, a really funny guy.
Nice. Okay. Ilmari, I can't say his surname. Help me out here.
Lattinen. I think it's Lattinen. Okay. They are the Finnish last names are hard to pronounce.
Okay. and you're coming from Norway. I would have thought you'd have had a better experience at it. But we've got with a Levia and Jiri Sonio.
Yes, I think that's close enough.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So 2 Levia players making it into the top 8. I mean, you were saying sort of like Finland is known for Brute Nation, and they're following that through and putting Levia into the top 8s. That's a fantastic performance. I don't have any more information on those players. Mikkel Kolstrom on Zen. Ollie Saarinen, 2 tier 3 top 8 finishes. Dmitry Petrov, that's not really a Finnish name. And Juha Antti Kurtila on Azalea. So, repping it for the Rangers and the Cult of Azalea. And Vili Teravainen. Does that sound about right?
Something like that. I think that's the closest we can get.
Okay, he's got 1 tier 3 top 8 finish. So there's some good players in there. This wasn't streamed, but how do you feel about the new Levia match? I mean, we know that sort of like Ewer's record is just fantastic. Six tier 3 top 8 finishes and a win. But how do you think sort of like New navigates this one against Levia?
I've heard a lot of people talking about how it's like probably one of New's easier matchups outside of Guardians because, well, New is just fueling the blood depth of Levia, just making up their banish higher. And you can also, all of the good blues that Levia is using in their own deck to like their 6s and things like that, you can use them. You get to use them as Absolutely. New. So I think I think New has a big advantage there, but I don't think people should underestimate the just raw power and damage that Levia can push through. But it might be a little bit the hardest part, I think, for Levia in that matchup is that their blocks are just getting banished, so they're struggling to actually fuel their graveyard in a proper way to actually cast their power cards. So I think it's a really big uphill battle.
Yeah, it's going to be quite hard when the Levi tries to flip as well, because she doesn't want a big stack of in a banish zone, does she? Because then she's just banishing more cards off the top of her deck. So quite a hard finish. Thing is, you're never going to complain if you sort of like you get a Levi sort of like in the top 8, and then you get the same match which you're quite favoured into in the sort of like the top 4. You're just like, okay, we're doing quite well here. But obviously, sort of like you've got to navigate the KO match. And again, raw aggression versus sort of like a very controlling player, and where do you get your sort of like your banishes and your hits in? But fair play to you. Well done. Fantastic win. And new again. So Scandinavian countries are loving new. It's two for new so far.
It's actually it's a bit fun that the new crowned national champion and the last year's national champion met in the first round of the top 8. It would be cooler if it was actually a title match, but sadly it was not meant to be. Yeah, Denmark. Last year's national champion for Denmark was not able to play, sadly.
That's
so
a shame.
That was Simon Nielsen. So sadly he couldn't play, so he couldn't defend his title.
Yeah, you want to try and defend your title. There's not many players that can do a back-to-back. That's for sure. No. Sort of like Tarek did a back-to-back, but he switched countries, didn't he? So US and then sort of like Canadians. So it doesn't really count.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. I don't think it actually counts.
Okay. So let's move on. Norway. Here we go. So this is the meta for the Swiss. 31 players. Was it 32? Was it supposed to be 32?
Yeah, we had a cap, and we had 32 registered. Sadly, the last player texted me 10 minutes before the event that he couldn't attend.
Yeah.
So
it's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
4 new. I suppose the Bravo players were loving that there was some, a high proportion of new there. We've got sort of like Azalea, sort of like in a top position as well. Prism, that we haven't really seen sort of like in the top 5 from the other countries, and Zen and Enigma following it up. It's nice to see Dash IO there. Whether or not sort of like they're using the same build that Mara used would be interesting to know. I know Scott Mines used it into the UK one. And he did okay.
I think it's quite similar. If I remember looking over the list, I think it's quite similar to that list. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you're a patron of Mara's, you can get that. You can get all the deck tech on it. So check that out. Okay, so this is the draft segment. So sadly, 2 players dropped out. 29 players took part, and again, pretty much even across the board. It looks like these packs are favouring, sort of has not been favourable towards Enigma, and more sort of like Ninja and Assassin orientated. What was the feelings for the draft when you were there?
I felt most people. So we have a little bit. There is a lot of people in Norway that does not like draft at all. So there was quite a lot of people where this was their first draft in part of Mistvale. But among some of the people, it was kind of like with the Danish people, where some people were talking about just forcing, but I felt it was less. There was just a couple of people talking about forcing, like that would be the best strategy. But the rest was kind of like, I'm just gonna do what the cards tell me. Some people were forcing more in the way that they had classes they felt more familiar with, that they've played more. Like some people have played more News, some people have played more Enigma, that gravitated more towards those decks. So I wouldn't necessarily say they actively tried to force them, but they might be valuing those kind of class cards higher and then indirectly forcing them that way.
Yeah. So you're showing bias towards a particular hero. So sometimes it's like I wouldn't really know how to play Assassin, but I've played Ninja and I've played Illusionist. So I would, if I was drafting, I would automatically steer clear of Assassin and sort of like go with the ones I've got more familiarization with. But I've kind of felt like this is kind of like one of the most drafted sets prior to a Nationals, considering sort of like, the release of this set, it's been such a short space of time, until we've got to the Nationals. It feels like people have picked this up and just drafted like mad. That's what, certainly the UK felt like. Everyone felt comfortable going into it. And even sort of like the day before on the Friday, you had sort of like teams, doing draft practice or picking up tips from other people on what they should be doing. So
in Norway and Denmark, they actually ran a super armory on the Friday that was draft to let people try and get a little bit more practice in. And here in Oslo, we actually had we have 2 stores that run armories. And one of the stores that was doing weekdays, they had CC, and the store that had weekends were running drafts in the weekends to just make sure that people had testing for both the whole way up to nationals the last month. Yeah. So we have actually done quite a lot of drafts here.
Oh, that was really good of him. Yeah, because unfortunately, draft can absolutely just ruin your day and just punt you out of your nationals. So as much as people try and avoid it, you have to have some practice going into it. Otherwise, you're just there going, I might as well drop now. I'm not going to make it. But let's get into the top 8. Okie dokie. So top 8. Adam Farage, 1 tier 3 top 8 finish, and he's on new. Oscar Cruz on Phi. We haven't really seen a Phi make it into the top 8, but he's done it, and he's got 4 tier 3 top 8 finishes and 1 win. So he must know something that the rest of us don't know if he's using Phi. Was he on Tigers in this build, or was he more of a traditional Phi build?
More of a traditional Phi. So the win that he has registered is probably the first Norwegian Nationals, which he won on Dorinthia in the Cheerios Briar meta. Nice. So he was mostly playing Dorinthia, and then he felt like he couldn't win with Dorinthia anymore, so he switched over to Phi. He was testing a little bit of Zen before the event, but then he felt he couldn't really get it to work the way he wanted, so he just wanted to play Phi instead, because it's a deck he actually knows. And this is a way something I feel explains the Norwegians, where you can have you have the Guardian, the Swedes are the Guardians, Finland is the Brutes. Norway is more like, you will find these people have just stuck with their decks or with the heroes since they started playing the game, pretty much.
All right, that's cool. Sort of like a country full of specialists, and it certainly does favour specialists at the minute. So, talking of one, Lucas Vaz. I've not been covering sort of like Sweden very long for the Meta Report, but Lucas sort of travels into Sweden to play, and every time I've seen him, he's been on Dorinthia, and he's made multiple top 4s across the RTN and PQ seasons this year. So when I saw his name there, I was just like, yeah, fair play to you, mate. You know how to play Dory, that's for sure. Do you know how long he's been playing it?
He started, actually, a friend of mine. So I've been traveling with him. It's usually my group and him that's been traveling around, and it's a close friend of mine, the co-caster in Sweden, that is actually going to be that introduced him to the game. He was an earlier Yu-Gi-Oh player. Mm-hmm. He started playing around I think it was either right. No wait, it has to be before Outsiders. So yeah, it was. Now I don't remember what set. Was it Dusk to the? What was before Outsiders again? I've forgotten that.
Outsiders.
So far.
Dynasty.
Dynasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've been playing. No, wait. Yeah, he started right after Uprising because he started with Dromai, but he didn't really like it that much. And then he changed over, played a bit fine, changed a little bit out. And then he was really happy when Kasai was revealed as an adult because he really loved playing Kasai in Blitz. Nice. So then he played like the Sabres Kasai, went over to Hatchet, and then he just saw the Hatchet Dory, and he's just been playing Hatchet Dory since then. That's the list he's been playing all through the RTN and the ProQuest season.
All right, cool. Uno Hansen, 1 tier 3 top 8 finish on new. 2 news in this top 8. Jorgen Christian, you're going to have to help me out with his surname. How do I say his surname? Kortvedt.
Kortvedt.
All right, yeah. Kortvedt. 1 tier 3 top 8 finish on KO. Then we've got Tov Hansen, 2 tier 3 top 8 finishes and 1 win with Azalea. Christopher Reyes, 3 tier 3 top 8 finishes and 1 win included in that. He's got a ProQuest 2024 win on Bolton, which I covered in sort of like the ProQuest season on the Meta Report. And Tor Eskeland with Enigma, 2 tier 3 top 8 finishes. So it's another stacked top 8. It's just like all the players have got somewhere. A fantastic record for all the players that are in it. You know, like you're saying, specialists pretty much through and through. Which of these matches did you watch?
So I watched. Let's see. I watched the. So for the top 8, I got to watch a little bit of all of them.
Okay, cool.
Which was nice. So it was the first one to be finished was the new versus Phi, which unluckily was finished by the new playing a Blanche, and then the Phi player just straight up forgetting it was a trigger there, so he played a card he was thinking had go again, but it didn't have go again because it lacked a red card before it. So that just stymied his turn and stymied his whole tempo.
Yeah. The thing is, these are little mistakes that come in.
Game between Lucas, they can bite you quite hard. Yeah. Lucas and Uno was a very grindy matchup, where I actually thought Uno was going to have it quite early on, because I just looked over the table and I see a Bonds of Agony coming through, and then double Justinic hitting towards Lucas and taking away 3 blue hit and runs. And that,
I bet he was happy about that.
He managed to keep trucking through it. Jürgen and Tove, that was a very interesting game to watch. Tove is the was the current champion, so he was defending his title. Been playing Ranger ever since he started right after Tails Safario with Lexi.
Yep.
Jürgen did quite well. He went 2-1 on new in his draft, where he never played draft before. This was the first time he's drafted before. This is his first bigger competitive event that he played.
That's really good.
It was quite cool seeing him coming all the way up to being second seed, just having one loss into the top 8, which was the one in limited. He had quite a good tempo in the start, but you could see he was lacking out a little bit in the experience, where Tove managed to get a little bit more value out of his cards and his on-its. I didn't get to see so much of the Reyes or the Christopher versus Ture matchup, but it did seem like a little bit of typical Zen versus Enigma, where Enigma is trying to hold up their health and trying to establish some form of damage, where it didn't really manage to manifest correctly.
That's fair enough. These things happen. It's good that Tove got into semi-finals, into the top 4. You know, especially for a defending champion. You're just like, blimey, that's the closest I've ever seen. You know, a defending champion come. So fair play. Lucas Vaz versus Christopher in the final. So both players that I recognise the names because of the meta report. How did this one play out? If he's playing Dory Axes.
Oh, that matchup is probably, I'm so sad it doesn't exist on camera, because it's probably some of the best Flesh and Blood I've seen played in a long time. It was almost like watching the last PT finals between I'm actually forgetting the name of the winner, the Dromai player, and Maximilian Klein.
Yeah,
it was such a close game. They were grinding. They were just hitting each other. There was one turn where Christopher went an Art of War turn. He blocked with his boots and then went Art of War, banishing away. And he made his very long chain. He presented 34 damage. And Lucas was just very patiently blocking with his cards and using all of his equipment, still keeping cards left in his hand. So he went from 30 to 26. He took 14 damage through his 34 damage turn, and still managed to hit back for 5 and reset the counter on his shoes. It was just amazing to watch. Christopher, as you can see, managed to take it down. There was one point where Christopher draws up a hand that is just all reds, and I'm just thinking a little around on the turns right now. Yeah, He had not all reds. There was 2 transcend cards to drop in the ocean, and a rising sun, setting moon, and 2 reds. And he plays both, and he ends up drawing into a Descendant Gust Wave.
Yeah.
And just fixing his whole hand so he can suddenly just go in for I think it was a 20 plus damage turn. And then the next turn just draws into red and blue Descendant and a red Bonds. And at that point, the game was pretty much locked for Christopher.
Oh God, that's how Zen does it.
I have to mention on that, because that's not the worst thing that happened. The worst thing was Torv's versus Christopher's match. Because Christopher decides to go first, and the only thing he does in his turn 1 is play Warmonger's Diplomacy, arsenal a card.
Right.
Torv just hits back with an infection shot. This is what I heard, because I wasn't actually watching it. The first time I'm looking over at the board, I just see this very long chain link, and Christopher just cleaning it up again, and Torv loudly pronouncing Tunic to 2, and he is at 14 health. That was a very quick game.
Yeah, it sounds it. It's like I'll try not to lose my temper. I'll just say Tunic to 2. There's not a lot I can do, but never mind. Yeah, that's the way it runs.
It was. He pretty much just Tunic to 2 and just looked at me, just looked me in the face. It was a Tunic to 2.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like the like we had a dash versus Riptide, and it was just like just went off on turn 1. It's just like 29-30 damage with a maximum velocity. Andrew Rayner couldn't do anything, and then again, sort of like following into turn 3, just another max V turn. It was just like it was the fastest dash I've ever seen. When these games happen, there's not a lot you can do. It's just like, it's just not my day. But yeah,
it does seem like we have a little curse here between Norway and Denmark, because Adam Farage was also undefeated until he lost in his quarterfinals, just like Laura was in Denmark. Though I think Finland, I'm not 100% sure, but I do think Juha was actually undefeated through the whole tournament. I might be wrong about that, but I do think that's what I heard.
Nice. Fantastic achievement. The only other player I've known who's done that is Matt Folks, when he had Cheerios Pie. It's just like, that's amazing. Okay. So well done, Christopher. Champion of Norway. Get to fly the flag and do the walk if you're going to Worlds. Please go and do what you've earned. Let's go on to this weekend, because we have Sweden coming up. So sort of like it is going to be streamed on Fab Sweden. Christian, you're part of the commentary team, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Me and a friend was luckily invited over, asked if he wanted to cast, and I happily said yes.
Nice.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm seeing a lot of names that I recognize and know.
Yeah, so these Joachim Gustafsson is the defending national champion. All the other players are basically the players that are qualified for their nationals. Obviously, we know Erica, fantastic commentary that she does, has provided sort of like at Warsaw and other callings, and she's going to be doing Pro Tour Amsterdam. But we've seen sort of like a lot of these names come up. If you do the meta report, that these names have come up time and time again. So maybe sort of like the Swedish champion is among these names. Erica is certainly a formidable player. She beat Michael Fung sort of like at calling in the Battle Hardened event at Liverpool, which was amazing. Sort of like that rippled all the way through the arena. I've never witnessed anything quite as amazing as that. Sort of like the excitement of one player winning. And it was just it was amazing. It was amazing to see.
Yeah, I think any of these players can end up being the winner of the tournament. So people that have been some names I don't necessarily know, but there's a lot of people here that have been playing for a while, been playing competitively and grinding, and have their reps underneath their belt. So I'm so looking forward to casting it, commentating it. It's going to be so fun. I did it 2 years ago, and it was so ecstatic to watch it unfold and commentate it.
There's a local production company doing it as well. It's doing it, so it should be this stream should be absolutely top quality. So it should. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Stay tuned. Tune in. Fab Sweden on YouTube. So go check that out. I'll put the link in the description so you can go watch the weekend unfold. And last but not least, sort of like we have Ireland. Ireland are next weekend as well. Defending champion is Dylan Thompson. Fantastic player. If you followed the meta report, Dylan's name comes up a lot. Top fours, finals and wins. He's sort of like it's definitely a player that sort of like dominates around Ireland. We've got the other players there sort of like that have qualified, and then I've put Ian Holland down there. A fantastic player. He didn't play as much sort of like in the qualifying season, sort of like had a bit of a rest, but he is a phenomenal player. Normally Ian and Dylan sort of like fight it out. But sort of like it doesn't normally go all their own way. Sort of like the players we have here sort of like are definitely in contention. Ryan Porter, the first national champion in 2022 for Ireland, and Jacob Nowicki is a fantastic Azalea player, and he goes to loads of tournaments. Every tournament that I've been lucky enough to sort of like stream, Jacob's been there. So a well-travelled player and a fantastic Azalea player. So unfortunately, this is not going to be streamed, but I will be bringing you the results because I'm really interested in this because I follow Ireland a lot and I want to know who wins. So hopefully they'll give me the results. That'll be fantastic.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be good. But thank you, Christian. It's been fantastic having you on. It's been fantastic that you supplied all the results. It's a phenomenal job you've done getting all that, because that is no easy task, consolidating all that stuff. So thank you very much. Is there anything you want to say?
No, it's my pleasure. I love collecting data, and I love the work that you do, and that's all the way that you present it. That's why I find it even more fun to collect it, so that you can create these meta reports. I really enjoy watching them, which is what spurred me on. That when I saw or talked with Erica, and she mentioned that she was sending you the information, I was like, "Do you think he wants more information?" And then I just asked you up and just started sending you information. So whenever I have information, I'm just going to throw it at you so that you can use it. So, it's been a pleasure to be on.
Thing is, I try to use it all. It's nice to sort of like show what other countries are doing, and it's nice to show sort of like what we consider sort of like the smaller countries. When you sort of like look at the player base as a whole, because we've seen there sort of like, Norway, Finland and Denmark have got some absolutely amazing players, with some outstanding records for tier 3 wins. It's just like, it's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, thank you to you, Christian. Thank you to Erica. It's been my pleasure doing all this. It's hard work, trying to get it out on time, but he's just like, it is absolutely brilliant. And getting your perspective as well, actually there, sort of like at the coal face, so to speak, sort of like how it unfolds. It's been brilliant. So thank you so much. To all my patrons, Andrew Rayner, Bolful, Mike Kerslake, Callum Dorling, Darren Burdock Latter and Ross Hewitt, thank you very much for supporting me. I can't do this without you. And if you want to join my Patreon scheme, you get 10% discount from Buy the Same Token. So if you watch my streams, if you watch the streams that me and Alan do, you will always see Buy the Same Tokens on there. A fantastic group with Ed, who I interview a lot, designs a lot of these for Flesh and Blood, and he's massively invested as a player into Flesh and Blood as well. Thistle Tavern, which is a Scottish single seller, so you can go check him out, get your singles that you desperately need to fill up your collection, or to get the latest meta deck. And you can see Andrew and Stuart there. And now PCG UK have joined. So if you want your cards graded, basically every 3 months you get a code. Whatever you've put into the Patreon, you get that as a voucher. So you've got a £5 tier list. So you get a £15 voucher in 3 months. And I've now got a £7.50 tier, so you will get a $22.50 voucher every 3 months. They last for another 3, so potentially you could combine them, but it's so thank you for PCG for doing this. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much. So next week, hopefully, I should have all the results from Sweden. We will hear Christian's dulcet tones on the stream, and I will bring you all the Irish results as well. So until then, stay tuned. All right, bye-bye.